Let's go, people. Let's go. It's Prognosis negative time.
Hi, this is Eric.
And this is Isaac.
And welcome back. It's Prognosis Negative, episode 57, once again, continuing on our Tron journey. This will mostly be the formerly Disney XD series Tron Uprising, going over primarily episodes 11 through 15. Note that is if you consider the pilot episode 1, because the numbering can be screwy, because even with me putting together show notes for myself to reference, it gets confusing when I'm Googling because the numbers will be off for the episode numbers. And stay tuned, because I can't remember if this was mentioned in our first block episode or second block episode, so maybe you're hearing this for the first time, oh faithful listener. But stay tuned, because near the conclusion of this episode, we are going to reveal to each other our program pseudonyms we have come up with.
Aye, and where we may have come up with them, and how.
But with that having been said, episodes 11 through 15... What say you, Isaac? Or what would you like to say to the people?
Well, I have a laundry list of things to go over before we get to the discussions, in depth at least.
By all means, or make the laundry list part of the discussion even.
Well, it is kind of... This is actually... Okay, this is... Because I had some thoughts between this episode, like the last episode and this one. I'm like, oh, wait. I gotta get these out, because I made some mistakes, and I have to... At least a mistake that I recall. Because then I saw a clip of something and I was like, wait a minute, I got this wrong. The first thing was I was at my work and I was just, doing my work stuff and letting, my empty head fill with thoughts and intrusive thoughts and whatnot. And I remembered something. So I was like, wait a second. You know what the series can do? It probably wouldn't make the attempt to, but they could, because I recall in Legacy there was a character named Zeus.
Oh, yeah.
Turned out to be Martin Sheen's character. And I thought, well, could he, this is still episode 10, so this is prior to these 5 episodes, could he make an appearance in this latter half of the series, or season, or would he have been in the later seasons had they had been produced and the series would have been successful? Because I'm like, because we had him briefly, there was a mention of this guy... who turns out to be a scumbag, but a traitor or something like that, or working with Clue. It would have been interesting in that instance of we know he's a traitor, so it's we know where this is kind of going. So I was wondering if we were going to see him at all this season. I still don't know that, obviously, but what say you, friend? What do you think? Do you think that he would have been involved in this series, or because they're at a different city, he's not involved in this?
Hold on. I hear what you're saying, but the question is still not 100% clear to me.
Of course. The character of or Martin Sheen's character, I forget what his actual character's name was. I forget.
By the way, I'm looking for his correct name. It's not Martin Sheen. That's not his name.
Michael Sheen, excuse me. Sorry, not Martin Sheen. Pardon me. Thinking of the other actor. My apologies. Michael Sheen. I like the guy a lot.
Right, you did this last time.
I probably did as well. Whoops, too many M's. But Michael Sheen. Sorry, Michael Sheen. I forget his character's name. He was the owner of that club that had Daft Punk in it.
Yes, he was Zeus, but also went by the name Castor in the movie as well. He went by both names.
Probably not, because this takes place in Argos, and so all the uprising itself is happening over there instead of in, I forget what the city is in Legacy. So it's unlikely that would have happened, but maybe mention of the name, where because we have a revolution, right, where it's called Uprising, for pit's sakes, Tron lives. So I was wondering, are we going to have Michael Sheen's character, thank you, in this somehow? Or would there be mention of in this? Because if we see...
So that's the question. So I'm just trying to focus on the question, because I got all the backstory of your setup, but I wasn't sure exactly what I was answering. I definitely see that as a possibility. I mean, why not? But not just why not, because we do see throughout what we've seen already in Uprising, we see kind of the underworld or underbelly of society in the grid. And like for anyone who's seen, perhaps some of 3D animated Clone Wars, it's like whenever they go to the lower levels of Coruscant, so to speak,
1313.
It's kind of the same thing of seeing the underbelly of the Star Wars universe and the gangsters and the huts and the whatnot. Well, there's no huts really on Coruscant, but we do see that in other parts of the Star Wars.
Well, I mean, there was one such hut.
Yeah.
Sean's boyfriend.
So anyway, yeah. I mean, why not? Especially when we see some of these other underground groups and organizations that have already appeared in the series.
If he had seen the actual, character in question, but still, I listen. It's it's just me wanting to make things happen, of course.
You know what makes me wonder too, because this is one of my pastimes when thinking about the Tron universe, is how like I try to associate the things in the grid with what they sort of represent in the real world, in the Tron real world or whatever. Like how the original Tron, like in the movie, was a security program, made by Alan. And then RAM was like an accounting program. And so I'm trying to think, Zeus being, or Castor being like this kind of underground, like guy operating a speakeasy and kind of being duplicitous. Like, I'm trying to think, like, because I'm thinking black market for some reason. Not that he actually deals in black market directly in the movie, but still, I'm trying to think: is he like what would he be in the real world as a program? Is he like Napster? Is he just like malware that is like opportunistic and just goes around the internet, um, uh, gathering people's information without them like, you know what I'm saying? I'm just trying to imagine like what is Zeus's purpose as a program in the real world? Because other programs seem to have a purpose.
That's a question. Because we've largely separated ourselves from that, or at least the creators of the series have moved away from that, from what it originally was in Tron, the first movie, excuse me. So, which is not a bad thing. I'm just saying, like that's the unfortunate thing we have to go with for this case, because they are kind of operating on free will. But I think that is, a discussion for a larger argument.
Well, that is another larger question, because is it free will with the programs, or is it them operating as their program dictates? Like, in other words, if we consider them as like quasi AI beings, the programs in general. So if a program, I'm sorry, an AI like ChatGPT, if it, yes, it's making its own decisions and taking its own course of action, like if it's playing a game of chess or just having a debate with someone, just because it is maneuvering through the game of chess or through a verbal debate, does that mean that it has free will? And so answer that question, and then we can start talking about the programs in Tron.
Funny, I should ask that question as well, with a certain person that spews all that out in this episode, or in one of these episodes. Excuse me.
Yeah, I was like, what episode are we talking about? Because obviously I've seen them all, but I'm not sure if we're doing all at one or one for all. Just kidding. That's a My Hero Academia joke.
Yes,
But
of course.
I don't know if we're doing it like we did last time, or if we're going to go bit by bit.
Bit by bit, but it's only I just wanted to just pose that question of what the programs in this, if they're still following the program, or if it's the writers are just treating them as they're just denizens in this world and there's no connection to the real world at all, which I do like, of course.
I feel like there's still a modicum of both somehow, even if it's not explicitly said, because like Abel, like he could be like in the real world like a defrag or check disk program or something, like a program that uh, performs maintenance inside of computer software, but also maybe a program that manages other programs. So it's like the head program of like a defrag,
Oh yes, yeah, I see what you mean.
you know? And then like the tanks or like the military vehicles. The tanks could be like something like you could imagine um, you put something in your wastebasket on your desktop, and then when you put like empty delete all, you can imagine these little tank programs coming in and destroying your wastebasket.
That's a good point, actually.
You see what I'm saying? And so yeah, and I know this is partly a parlor game, but I like playing this parlor game of trying to figure out like what is going on. And with some of the characters who are introduced, we were just introduced to a new character at the end of our last block. Was it Becker? I can't even remember. Or Beckett?
Well, there's Beck, but I don't know about Beckett.
No, not okay. Then it's definitely not.
Oh,
Beckett.
yeah, no, yeah. What's
The guy who was like friends with Tron?
Yeah, John Glover's character, whatever his name is. He's in one of these episodes. Dyson. I pulled that out of my rear.
Because what is Dyson Industries? Is that just a real world company, or is there something called that in some fictional universe?
Well, I mean, there's Dyson, the vacuum product,
Yes,
or whatever that
for sure.
over in the UK is. Miles Dyson of Terminator 2 fame. And then Dyson Sphere, which is, the potential mechanical object in space that's astronomically huge that orbits the sun and uses the sun's energies to power itself.
What was the second one you said?
Miles Dyson from Terminator 2 Judgment Day fame.
I think that's what I was thinking of.
Okay.
Yeah. And especially considering we got to know Dyson at the end of the last block, and we get introduced to some more mostly new characters in this block, and they're kind of unique, each in their own right. And so it makes me wonder, like, maybe we'll speculate more when we talk more about some of these new characters, like what I'm trying to imagine they would be in the real world as programs. But where would you like to go from here?
Well, hang on, I still got some laundry. I still got some laundry to air out.
Oh, yeah. I definitely want to get to the rest of the laundry.
So continuing on with like Zeus, Michael, got it this time, Sheen's character, stop sucking my own dick.
Wow. This is a kid show, Disney XD.
Sure, this is not bending the elements, relax.
Different kind of D.
Of course. Yeah, extra D. In that same scene in Legacy, when Michael Sheen's character caster / Zeus is introduced, he has he's being I say accosted, but he's being questioned or at least asked by this like one, I guess, program. Or at least I think there's like 3 of them, right? And there's like one that's asking him, like, hey, like, we need, we're with Resistance or whatever. We need, to see Zeus. And I thought, what if, and again, this is projection, what if, and pure speculation, subjectivity, what if that was Lance Reddick's character from like the episodes 2 or 3, who, was part of the games and Beck befriended and went to the nines to try and save his hide from Tesla, executing him. It was just making me wonder, like, oh, what if that's kind of like, Captain Rex in Return of the Jedi?
Okay, so if it's Captain Rex, the character in Legacy, then who was he in Uprising?
Lance Reddick, the actor, he portrayed this one character in Uprising in episodes 2 and 3. I forget his name, but we made a big deal about how he was like one of the first supporters of. I think it was either 2 or 3.
Okay, I got you. That would be cool. I don't think it's the case, but
it probably is not. But it would be funny if it was him.
But you could retroactively fit it, like you said with Rex. And speaking of Rex, you in Star Wars, you made me think of something else. Because due to the additional Star Wars content on Disney and whatnot, like what you're describing with what happens with Rex, how you could sort of retroactively fit this person here
Well,
and say
you've been saying. I just like to reiterate it every now and then.
Well, I've been saying, but it's not like I came up with it.
That's true.
I was just repeating what's already out there.
Of course.
Also within the Star Wars universe, if you see what they've done with Rex additionally in the Clone Wars animated series, etc., boy have they made a side character immensely more interesting with so many more layers and so much more depth. And to not the same extent, but in a similar vein, what they have done with the character Che Guevara throughout the existence of that character, I also find that very fascinating. How it was just like a one-off side character in a certain story arc in Clone Wars, and then eventually morphed into something much bigger with the live-action Rogue One, of course, but then even more with the Andor series, and I can't remember right now, but he probably showed up in the Rebels series as well. Yeah, man, if Tron had like such a following, it doesn't have to be a Star Wars following, but just a bigger following than what it does. Man, the things you could do, the ways you could play around with the universe and the backstory, gosh, the possibilities, man.
Oh, you mean Saw Gerrera? Okay, you said Che Guevara.
Oh, what did I said? Did I say Che Guevara?
Well, that's probably what
Oh, that is what he's named after, 1,000,000%. Especially if you see his origin story in Clone Wars. Yeah, it's no secret that Saw Gerrera is inspired a lot by Che Guevara.
Right. But anyway, so that's just pure speculation / fan theory. Sorry, yeah, fan theory.
No, yeah, I get it now. I get it took me a little bit to connect the dots, and now I see because I forgot about that character in the early episodes of Uprising.
Well, that's the thing. I'm hoping that he shows up by the, or again, he was slated to show up in the other seasons, but we're not meant to be, unfortunately.
Oh my god! If this this is season 1, obviously. If this show had like 5 or 6 seasons, like animated Clone Wars, I could just imagine how the world would unfold and the characters. Like this would be like such a legendary animated series if they could have kept going and adding more to this mythos. But anyway,
have ChatGPT write you a summary of what the other seasons would have been.
Oh, it'll do it. It'll do it.
Last thing, just last other piece of laundry that
I like the laundry bag.
There you go. This is what I mean by when I start thinking intrusive thoughts between episodes. Okay, I got to make this very clear and give you context.
You call them intrusive thoughts, but this is show prep. I mean, when you're out and about and you have thoughts like this, it's show prep.
Okay, so remember that subplot in, I think it was the first batch of episodes that we did with Uprising. Zed, the friend who we think is going to keep on turning, like he's going to turn over to Teslar's side, but he just has those, opinions of, Tron Legacy, he's not really cool.
Wait, Tron Legacy? He's not really cool? What do you mean Tron Legacy?
Sorry, Caleb's just shaking his head right now. If you hadn't noticed, I had been, like, the joke I've been making, I've been calling Beck Tron Legacy because, for obvious reasons, like, he's not Tron, but I think he's like the legacy of Tron, so I call him Tron Legacy. Again, just wordplay. I'm just
Okay. Now, because I was like, are we turning? I wasn't sure if you were turning the movie into anamorphized character.
Well, that's what I call Beck.
Okay. Now it makes sense. Like Spock.
I know it's probably been like, eye rolling for those listeners listening to this, but I just think it's kind of funny.
I did not catch. I thought, because sometimes people just say things imprecisely, unintentionally. And so my brain tends to just think that's what's happening first.
Of course. No, so now whenever I said like Tron Legacy, I'm referring to Beck because I think it's just funny to use that terminology in this universe. Anyway, so Zed, friend, air quotes, to Beck. No, they are friends. he's tasked by Bartik, Hopper, and Page, those two goofs, like those two fools,
Yes.
who think they are, all top dog and whatnot, but they're not. And then Page, we obviously know who she is. She's the female, like second in command to Tesla. They task Zed with, hey, you got to make a weapon so that you show it to Paige, and then we'll get in good graces with Tesla or something like that.
Yeah.
Do you remember this part of the show?
Yeah.
Okay. So he's tasked with a weapon, and I made a whole spiel about like, oh, this feels like this is a broken, broken piece of broken weapon in a way. Like I say broken, but it's like overpowered in a way. Like it's broken in terms of storytelling, because what it is it's like a trail destroyer, if I recall, where it basically like launches off of like the trail of a bike, and it follows it, and then goes boom.
Yeah, it reminds me of how shield technology works in the Dune universe.
There you go. Exactly. I was wrong. I was completely wrong, because Kevin Flynn did this in Tron, the original Tron. So it's when they're in the what is it? I think it's towards the end of the movie. They're on the solar sail. They're heading towards whatever it's called, through the canyon, and they're heading towards whatever that place. I forget what place it was.
Yeah, I forget. You're talking about like the transfer point or something.
Exactly. So they're on the line, and then there's like Sark's ships are coming in from behind, not this ship, but like on the same line. And then I think Kevin does something that does the same, like, weight line destruction or whatever, trail destruction, excuse me. And yeah, it makes things go boom. And so I'm like, son of a gun, Zed figured out how to do this 30 years later or 20 years later or whatever it is, or how many cycles it is.
Yeah, and it's like if you are going international or something, traveling internationally, and you try to force plug your device for one region into a different voltage system, like you literally burn out your device. Like again,
Yep.
I'm like trying to this game of trying to think of the real world analog of where this stuff comes from.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea. Because the show isn't doing that, not like unintentionally, just it's not focused on that stuff. It's telling a different story. And so obviously all that like real world analogies are getting lost in the weeds. But again, they're telling a different story in that sense. That's fine. But anyway, that's it. That was my last night. I was wrong. I was incorrect. I completely forgot that we'd already seen that back in 82. We can move forward now and start the episode.
Yeah, I can't wait till they depict somewhere in the Tron universe, this series or somewhere else, like the realization of like fiber optics. It would be like site to site instantaneous transport within the Tron universe. It would be like when you're playing a video game like Breath of the Wild and you attain like fast travel abilities. That's basically how I see it in the Tron universe. Because yeah, they've gone fast, but they've never they've gone Ethernet fast, sort of, but they've never gone fiber fast in the Tron universe that we've experienced.
Well, funny thing, I actually think some of the softwares in these, at least in like Abel's shop, because they're like, oh, okay, they're the mechanics, right? Like they fix other vehicles, at least in the grid. It's funny because this wasn't necessarily happening in 2012, if I recall. I don't know if vehicles were making the switch to having electronics in them yet fully, like for, I guess, like mass produced, not so much like obviously other machines for military purposes or police or whatever, or maybe like certain like Formula One racers or whatever have you.
Well, no, they were absolutely adding computers bit by bit. I mean, going back to the 90s, just by when they started to add actual computers, meaning, you know how when you get a check engine light or something and you have to plug in the computer, and obviously that wasn't a thing in cars in the 80s, but from the 90s onwards, obviously you have to have that computer interface, and that's something very standard now in cars for decades.
That's what I mean. So had it like I don't know if 2020 if Ares does this, but that could happen now. Where it's almost you have to have like software. You have to have computers diagnose these cars because they're basically like computers on wheels.
Yeah, 100%.
So that would have been interesting to see if Abel would have adopted that, or they would have had a new program in a different city where it's like, oh yeah, my real world counterpart is to service vehicles that have computers in them, which
Yeah,
is standard,
and
obviously. But
further, this is a weird game to play. Like all this speculation, out of universe of the show, but then in universe to the real world, because it makes one wonder. When Zed or whomever in Abel's shop comes up with a new idea or a new invention or a new modification to something, you could think about that as like he's invented a patch for something for a program or whatever. But then if you take it further, the metaphor, that is, if you think of Zed as like a basic AI program or a program that has a basic AI component that is able to, that is generating a patch using AI. Now, I'm sure this has already happened to some extent already in the real world, but just think once AI really starts being employed to create patches for programs and games and complex websites to where you don't necessarily have to have humans creating patches. And just imagine then, I don't know what that leads to if computers start being able to self patch at a ridiculous pace.
give it 3 years and then it'll start.
Again, that's the singularity when we get to what's called the Butlerian Jihad in Dune. But
All right, Eric, let's start. After many minutes of of us going on with this, let's start talking about these episodes.
so you want to kind of go episode by episode?
I forget what format we do because it's been this amount of time since we performed, but
It's okay. Basically, every episode that we've done on Uprising will kind of be its own format. But I'm going to do it this way now. So the first one of this block, which is episode 11, if you count the pilot as episode 1, is Grounded, the name of the episode. But it's another one. So this one to me is the least interesting of the bunch because I don't really have that much to say about this one because this is just, it's similar. It's repeating a theme that we've already had in the show, which is Tesla trying to force Beck or the Renegade to reveal themselves in public.
Tron Legacy.
And we already kind of had an episode like this. So I don't know what if you have a lot of thoughts on this one in particular.
This is the start of the 3-arc structure that I'm calling the Secret Keeper arc. Obviously, afterwards, it's clear. I had asked if Beck was to, in the start of the series, I mean, not the start, maybe it was the second part we did, of will he have somebody who knows his secret?
Right.
Will he tell somebody? Because that was definitely a big thing involved in this, in the series, because they were going for like an alternative version of a superhero identity,
Right.
Or alter ego. But this time it was more for the sake of, which I am impressed by, I never really think of, oh, well, I'm a vigilante in a way. I'm trying to start a revolution. I do have an identity, an alternate ego actually does make sense in this case of I do want to remain anonymous. It's like, yeah, you kind of do. So it's like
that, but also because I think this, I mentioned this or someone did in one of our prior episodes about how it's kind of like also, it's not just him, having to have an alter ego for security purposes for himself and those around him in a traditional superhero sense, but also it's like at the end of Dark Knight Rises, where essentially Batman needs to retire because like his age and degradation of body. And so, it's implied at the end of the movie that someone else is going to pick up the mantle. So it is a bit of like a Nightwing or something situation as well.
John Robin Blake.
So so it's not just to hide his identity for the sake of security, but also because the original Tron can't be fully Tron anymore either. So that's a secondary reason of why it makes sense.
Of course. Yeah, and he is just taking like up the legacy wink of another character in a way. Um, but this is the reveal, and I'm actually glad they did this because they had mentioned it before. Beck has always been. I know this is so probably like not worth mentioning, and it's so small of a detail, but it's just like Beck has been late for work many times, and I was wondering that, and even the intro makes a point of that. Of he's been either late or he's been having to take time off to deal with this other his other extracurricular, I say extracurricular, but his other side activities after work. And so it definitely came to me of like, how long is this going to go on for before he gets just up and fired? Because this, Abel is kind of a saint almost. He's like the best boss you kind of ever want to have. Or he grumbles every now and then, but he's not like unreasonable or anything like that. So it's just like, man, I feel for Abel. I get it. And then here comes Beck. It's like, oh yeah, I need the day off, boss. It's like, what the flip is going on? I don't even know like what sick days are in this world and what like constitutes his program being sick. But in this case, it finally culminates of like, okay, you're grounded. I thought there was going to be like a device that chains him to the entire like the entire like facility where you can't leave until like the timer runs out, kind of what we have in the next episode. But I was really just wondering, like, yeah, this is kind of like the last straw. And I was wondering, I was thinking, like, how can Beck get out of this? How is he going to be able to be in two places at once without Tron, just, the real Tron, going and, taking up his guys, I guess, or himself and freeing this woman? And I have a thing about this woman as well, or this person that he saves in the beginning. I kept wondering, like, how he's I was actually thinking, oh, hey, because he's a mechanic, right? Because he's inside this mechanic shop and they get a bunch of Tesla's vehicles and machines of war. I'm like, oh, hey, he can sabotage them. Sounds like a plot that we're going to do in the next episode.
Sounds like a Star Wars plot in a certain movie.
But unfortunately, then that too. But then I thought, wait, no, they can't do that because if he does that, if they came in for inspection or whatever, Tesla's war machines came into Abel's shop to be fixed or whatever, or have maintenance checks done, and then suddenly oh, there's a malfunction, well, that just leaves a trail of crumbs back to Abel's shop, and then Tesla kills Abel. So it's like, okay, well, that didn't work. Whoops.
You have done a lot of thinking about this show.
Well, I don't know. I just like to think of these things, and it was also what I was thinking in my mind of like, well, how? Because I want obviously there, we have a revolution on our hands, so it's like, well, Beck has insider information. Maybe he can take notes on how to dismantle these vehicles easier without having to trace it back to Abel. Because I'm like, I want this revolution to actually succeed without anybody getting hurt, and the show has made it very clear that Beck is not trying to kill people. That's not the message he's trying to send out, which is great. Although at some point, heads will have to roll. I hate saying that, or people will have to be dusted, or whatever you want to call it. Anyways, it's revealed finally, I'm talking way too long, that Abel knew. Abel has known, I don't know for how long, but he knows that Beck is Tron Legacy.
I have to say, as this arc continues, as you say, if you're calling it, what'd you call it?
The Secret Keeper arc.
Yeah, Secret Keeper, because I know what Secret Keeper means, but it's not really like terminology I was that familiar with before you started using it a lot. I did not see this coming. And I like this in shows, and certainly in adult shows or like primetime shows. I like when things aren't super telegraphed, but especially in a show that's purportedly produced for a younger audience. Because generally, when a show is produced for a younger audience, they're not subtle about clues like that. They try to make it obvious enough that a person can kind of see it coming a mile away, that so and so might be in or on the secret already. But in this, pretty close to when it gets revealed, I really did not think Abel might have like this other additional knowledge at all. So I like that because, yeah, I definitely didn't see it coming. If we had been placing bets since you first brought this up, obviously someone like Mara, or even, I can't remember her name, the female who works for Tesla who will probably flip like I could even see how Paige could unintentionally become the secret keeper first, but Abel, he wouldn't have been on my card at all.
No, that's fair. Not on the bingo card. And to be fair, they also were still advertising him. I don't want to say like this was a spoiler at all, not a spoiler, but because they put him at least on the Disney Plus webpage or webpage, but on when you look at like the episode page on Disney Plus, he's on there. He's like, it's him, it's Mara, it's Beck, and it's Clue for some reason, even though he's only been in like 2 episodes. But he's, I guess, the overall antagonist of the series. Abel always seemed like, okay, there's probably something more going on with him, and then we find out in this arc that there is, like, he knows, all right, he knows a lot actually, which I appreciate that there is more to this character now, and he's no longer, I will not say useless, that's not the case, but at least he's no longer like, okay, now he has a reason to be on screen, and we can finally tell like a story with him and what he has to do, and how he does care for Beck. And well, maybe I'm getting a little too far ahead of myself, but even still, for this one at least, it is nice that once again Beck is able to kind of prove himself. And there was a point where I thought, when Tesla fights Beck again, like at the end of this episode, I wondered when who is revealed to bring in the save for him. I actually thought it was Paige. I was like, ooh, is it going to be Paige, or ooh, is it going to be that lady that he rescued from the beginning?
Right.
I did not know what it is. I also thought that Tesla was going to, which again is actually funny. We're going to get that later on in the 15th episode. This is funny. I thought he was going to assume when Pavel was adjusting his code and doing some modifications to him, I was wondering, oh, is he going to go full on, like he's going to become Beck? Like he's going to sort of do a weird like Tron Legacy imposter thing where it's like, oh, he just, I don't know, like sides with himself. I don't know how that was going to work, but it was a little confused as to what was happening there, but that was all fine.
Wait, explain that again. Pavel was going to become Beck?
Not Pavel. So in middle of the episode, Paige goes into the room into this like, laboratory, and Pavel's there working on Tesla. Correct?
Okay, yes.
Yep. And he's doing something to his code. I thought Pavel was making Tesla into Beck, or maybe not Beck, but make him look like Tron Legacy, or Tron, excuse me.
Oh, so that he could do like undercover boss or something?
Either that, or on a display of like, I don't know, something like in front of all these thousands of people, he was going to pose as Tron and reveal like, oh, I'm with Tesla or something like that. You know what I mean? Like that, where it's like he's in, I don't know.
Okay, I see what you're saying now.
My brain went a lot of places with that, so I'm like, I don't know. Like, obviously, I was wrong in there, and really, I don't know. The upgrades that he did to his Omega hands, or arms, I have no idea what he did to make him, other than I guess the ability to now fry somebody with his hands. I'm not really sure what he did that made him. Well, I guess it was that gun. He was able to project and construct that gun, which was really cool. That BFG.
Oh yeah.
Which I thought was really cool. I'm like, oh, this show sometimes impresses me with like, weaponry or just the design of certain things. And I kind of like that stuff. And it's reminded me of video games, of course.
Yeah, yeah. Because now you got me thinking about video games too. Because I'm thinking about like getting weapons upgrades, like either in something like COD or like in a Zelda game or something.
Oh yeah, of course.
So now I'm like thinking about it like that. Or in Doom 2016, you'll find
That's where I was going.
These little terminals that you can interact with and upgrade your weapons.
Yep. Very standard practice in games, of course. Nothing new there, but it was just like, oh, okay, what was the new thing that Tesla added to his arsenal? Oh, a BFG. Okay, well, that makes sense.
Yes, a big friendly giant.
Absolutely a big friendly gourd for this season. Anyway, so then Abel comes in for the win, which again, like I said, I thought it was somebody else who was going to be that.
I heard those light cycles just pass by where I am. I don't know if that guy picked up on Mike.
Oh, that's funny. I see. Well, actually, one of the funny thing that they didn't give away was it wasn't his retro light cycle. That was the other big thing that I say different, but that was one thing that did not give it away. He used a generic one, which was helpful, because had he used, the Tron 1 version of a light cycle, then that would have been an easy giveaway.
When you say Tron 1, do you mean the actual Tron 1, or do you mean the
Tron from
faux...
1982.
Okay, or because they say, I can't remember if it was in the Legacy movie, or no, I think it was in like the first episode of this, where they're like, "It's the original light cycle." I'm like, wait a second, is it actually the original? Like it predates Tron 82, or are we using the model from Tron Legacy and saying it's supposed to represent the Tron 82 light cycle, even though while similar, it is certainly different.
Yeah, good question. That's a fair point. But whatever it was, one of the light cycles from Tron 82, I'm glad that Abel was not using his personal model to, bring to save Beck in the moment where he needed him most, and disarm Tesla.
Yeah, it's funny because I watched the first episode of the block um, some days back, and then I watched the rest of the episodes essentially yesterday and today. So I totally forgot there was that teaser at the end of the first episode, because it was several days ago when I saw it. And yeah, I forgot. Like I wasn't sure. I kind of thought, and this is like probably low hanging fruit. I kind of thought it would be the character who was teased in the previous episode,
Oh yes, yeah, him.
because we had like the flashback of Tron getting saved in the previous episode of the story arc, and so I thought maybe it's that guy. But again, that's like the obvious choice if you're watching these episodes in order and you had just seen that and then you see this, you go, oh, it could be that guy, but that would have been too easy.
Yeah, all too easy. Anyway, so then we get the reveal that Abel has known that Beck is Tron Legacy, and that's a great, like cliffhanger of like, oh, now I got to see the next episode.
Yeah, yeah, and just an overall summation of this block and being the third block that we've endeavored in. Um, my overall feelings of this entire block is an extension of what I said last time, which is just like last block. I am much more invested in the show. Like it was not 100% clear in the first block, like because if you remember back to our first conversation on Uprising, it was like, oh, this show is like gangbusters out the gate, but then it starts to feel like a more normal episodic type series, where it's like monster of the week, whatever. But it's, yes, things are happening, developments, but it doesn't really feel like the overall story is going anywhere in particular, which is kind of like how all the old shows, especially animated shows in the old days, seemed. But what started in the second block, and for me has certainly continued, is I'm much more invested. Where, like, because of the little cliffhanger, etc. Like I said, because I didn't have that feeling in the first block generally, where I can't wait to see the next one, or I need to learn more about this, which is, by the way, a formula that some of the newer HBO live action series that I've been watching recently, like The Gilded Age, or when I was watching Succession, White Lotus, they've figured out that formula on in HBO land, where yes, this is a standalone episode, but at the same time, you want to see the next one. Um, so HBO has become really good with that with some of their popular shows now, and yeah, that started to happen in its series as well.
As long as the story itself kind of wraps up and is contained, it's like you've told a story, and I mean this one, I don't know if Beck learns any. Well, he does learn something that definitely changes the progression of the show here and after. Next episode.
Were you surprised at all that Abel had been on to Beck since much earlier in the story?
No, I would have been the same thing. I would have been like, no, well,
no. Wait. What do you mean you would have been no? I mean, I'm asking, were you surprised to discover that he is in the know and has been Abel?
On my bingo card, I had he was going to find out. Like he was gonna like Beck was gonna tell him.
Okay, but were you surprised that in fact he already knew before we knew he knew?
Because of superhero stories, I should have seen this coming, but at the same time, it did come out of nowhere. And
Okay.
I'm like, ah, shoot. But then they immediately say, like, I've known for a long time. It's like, yeah, that's kind of a standard, like, superhero trope.
Okay. Okay. Well, um, I would like to move on to
Please? No, I'm good.
because well, I mean, if it comes up more, of course, we can talk about the upgrade situation with the tanks, which we kind of already have, which is episode 12. I believe we both know how this ends. I'd like to get to Stranger, which is the next episode, episode 13.
Oh, yeah, I know. That's a big one. But briefly on this one, this is what unknowingly predicted of, like, oh, what I like, I gave you that whole like that stream of
Yes.
consciousness of Beck works in this mechanic shop, so then and then like Teslar's assigning them to fix his war machines. Well, this one, kind of similar to him trying to steal data from Teslar's ship or from Tesla. He tries to, which is smart. He goes in his legacy or Tron, excuse me, and sabotages tanks. It works. It's pretty cool. And then the consequences of those, the actions of the consequences come in, and now his shop unfortunately has to deal with that. Thanks, Tron, as he says, Beck says under his breath. I guess that at least keeps up appearances in a way, and I think that was pretty cool. I think that was like the whole like actions having consequences to it, the whole thing, and then continuing to see where Abel goes, and we actually have him and Tron meet face to face and find out that he's the supplier of his back to tank fluid.
Okay. His bank to tank fluid. Okay.
What else do you want me to call it?
I don't know. But I like this I like this episode also because kind of a theme of what we've been saying. Um, it furthers the story, it ties into previous events, but also, for me anyway, this episode has like a meaningful B story, which is it does all those things while at the same time it's partially a Mara focused episode
It is.
where she gets her own little character development with being left in charge. And at first you think Abel just put her in charge because he was in a hurry and she was the person who was there. But, by the end of the episode, he's like, no, it was always going to be you, that he was going to choose. And so, it's very easy in any show to have a B plot or C plot that just feels like it's there to take up time. But it's nice when we are simultaneously maintaining the serial storytelling and doing standalone at the same time. So, just that's what I'm saying. The show in general at this point, and the further it goes, feels more fulfilling, more fully fleshed than in the first block.
And this also starts off a good plot run. I say run, but this also starts off finally giving Mara something to do. Forgive my like saying that, but before she's been a very like underwritten or at least not utilized, fully
Yeah,
utilized. There
like
we go.
failing the Bechtel test.
Don't worry, I'm not going there. But in this case, she has definitely been like on the sidelines as a minor character, and other than like helping Zed out, but still, yeah, only in a supportive role.
Yeah, because before this, she's not the same as, but almost like how Lori is, yes, in the original movie, and she's a quasi love interest for I'm not sure who because that's like another debate.
Well, it was Tron, and then yeah, in comes Kevin, but
That's what I'm saying. It's a debate, like the triangle.
a masturbate.
Like, is it? It's like Schrodinger's triangle. Like, we're not even sure if it's there or not. It's not there unless you look at it in the first movie. But again, like Lori would kind of like fail the Bechtel test. I have to Google it again to know exactly the criterion of the Bechdel test.
If two
But
characters don't talk about, if two females on screen don't talk about a male character, then it fails
right, but like
or
Lori,
passes. Or no,
she
wait.
doesn't seem to have a purpose in Tron 82 except to be there, be pretty, be a quasi love interest. And I'm sure she, or I'm not sure, but I'm fairly sure she does something to advance the plot or the story. I mean, even if it's a little thing. But she could easily not be in the movie and it wouldn't be consequential to things. And so what I'm trying to say is, even though she's not the same as Lori, she's been Lori-like for much of the series so far. That is Mara. Like she's just kind of there to be someone who you think could be potentially be a love interest for Beck in the future. Again, creating a quasi, or not, this is less quasi, this is more legitimate triangle because Mara seems there to make Zed upset and then also to pine from a distance for Beck. Like, I don't know, has she done before now in this series? Has she done more than that as a functional character?
Other than give Zed some pep talk and keep him
Yeah,
straightforward,
that
her
too.
being the logical one, or at least the more like the mediary party, which is important, of course. She has a role, I get that, but it's like she's always just been like in a supportive role. So now finally we can make her an active character in this. I do wonder if this is the start as well. I'm not saying like this is another like 3 episode arc or something like that, but I do wonder if this does help her start off and give her like the stepping stones towards what happens in I think 14 episode 14, excuse me.
I have to look to see what happened in episode 14. Oh, okay, yeah, I got you. Yeah,
Yep, you know exactly what I mean.
yeah, okay, yes. So now episode 13.
No, hang on, I may still have stuff to say. It was nice to know that once again there is another like it wasn't needed necessarily, but similar to how Kevin Flynn has his kind of domain or his not apartment, but his hut, his grotto in Tron Legacy, the movie, excuse me. You wonder where did he get all this stuff? Like who's supplying him stuff? I guess it's Cora. In this, it's like, okay, so where's Tron getting his like supply and how is he getting like all these materials? Is it him or is he got like a machine making it for him? What's going on? At least we finally get to, see him
It's
and
Morgan Freeman.
it's Morgan Free. It's Abel. You're absolutely right. And it is nice that they have a debate over Beck and that Abel does care for Beck and is worried that he could. Well, this is anything. Obviously, his surrogate father character. He could get hurt. And Tron is not heartless in that sense, but he's definitely devoted to this revolution and wants to obviously take down Clue for obvious reasons. And then they have a fight against an army of spiders, small ones at that, which they set up as well, being a nuisance and pests.
Hey, this brings up something that I brought up in the first block. Do you remember?
Oh,
Because I think it was at the end of the first block on Uprising where we were speculating a little bit like what else we could see, and we said, "Oh, will we see any of the characters from Tron Legacy or something perhaps appear in the series?" And then I said, "Oh, I wonder if we'll get those little grid spiders that were hand drawn animated in Tron 82. If
hey.
maybe they would pop up again." And here they are.
Look at that. Yeah, so at first I thought it was a little drone that was from Teslar's army. I thought it was like one of those spy drones, but no, it just turns out to be those grid spy, which is, yeah, you're absolutely right. A nice callback to that.
Yep. Yep. So I was happy about that because that was on my little prediction speculation bingo card.
Yeah, just giving Abel more of like a stance in this world and him being part of this crusade does help, and he's affiliated with that, and we'll see him in that in the next episode, obviously. But that him and Tron are pals. I don't know how long they have been pals before. I assume it was during like before Clue's takeover, I suppose. When that happens, so it's not necessary. I don't need to know like all the details. I just assume that it happened like well before Clue took over.
Yeah.
On to the next, the stranger.
The stranger. So Beck just needs to go pick up some power converters at Tossie Station.
I wasn't sure what was going on there. Like, I don't know what they never said, but it never doesn't matter. I don't know if it was. I don't even know if he made the pickup. By the way, like, I assume after what happened. He was gonna like go back to that city and then return back to Argos, but I have no idea.
Something I was trying to figure out also while watching this episode was I couldn't figure out if what happened um, to Beck and his side quest he goes on. Uh, I couldn't tell as I'm watching it, is this what Tron intended in the first place? Or is it not at all what Tron intended? You know what I'm saying? That was a lingering
Oh
question
yeah.
the whole time was like, did Tron say it was really important because he needed him to run into the stranger? And at first, you think maybe it's for good cause that he meets the stranger, but then obviously later, no, not at all for good cause. I mean, he needs to like prevent the stranger from doing whatever he's trying to do. But of course, the stranger can't do what he's going to do unless it starts turning into a bootstrap paradox, at least in my brain, where so is Tron trying to get him there to stop Stranger, but the Stranger can't even get out unless Beck goes there. So then that wouldn't make sense for Tron to want him. But then if Stranger, and one of the thoughts that happened also early in my head, seeing this episode unfold, it reminded me of I forget what they're called, but those spiders in nature who like dig like a little hole and
Oh
it's
yes, I
like
know
a
what you're talking about.
trap, kind of like a sarlacc, but it's a spider in the real world. And so, because of the way the domain of the stranger, the way it manifests, I almost saw him in his prison as being like a spider or a sarlacc that is waiting for someone to happen in. And so again, I couldn't tell if if this was by design by Tron or fine, not Tron because that would make no sense. Is it the stranger's design? But then how do you? And this is another thing that's difficult when you're trying to create um, a story or plot for a video game um, or a trap, which is let's if it was the stranger's intention, how does he manufacture a a traffic jam that gets Beck to go right down the right valley. See, like, oh, this is just me turning myself into pretzels for no reason. Like, this is my brain
Well,
trying to make sense
before
of
anything, can I
something.
ask? Are you? I thought it was Abel who sent Beck out to get something from a different city. I thought Tron's mission was to go investigate what Dyson was doing at that a separate city. There's three cities. I forget all the name.
You're
Obviously, there's
correct. You're
Argos, where they're
correct,
in,
though.
and then Abel wants them to go to city that begins with a G, if I recall. And then Tron comes in and is like, "Where's Beck? I need him to go investigate this other city where there's sightings of Dyson." And then Abel goes there instead, and so is Tron. So I
You're
thought,
right. I was getting things fudged up in the way I was explaining it. You are correct. And again, yeah, now that you're reminding me of the details, again, this is also why my brain was swimming around trying to figure out because I kept thinking someone's pulling the strings here, like for Beck to end up wherever he ends up, and I was like, is it Tron? No wait, is it Abel? No wait, is it the stranger? But wait, none of that makes sense. So yeah, yeah.
well, I mean, according to the stranger, everything is predetermined.
Mm, Well, again, that goes back to the question of do programs have free will when you think about it? Because again, if an actual AI in the real world is able, yes, it's able to appear like it's making its own decisions if it plays a game of chess because it is. But does that mean it has free will because it's able to play chess and make decisions? Not necessarily at all. Um, and one wonders about the programs. One wonders if maybe some programs do have free will, like, or maybe just programs that are unique, like ISOs. in a sense, have some type of free will. But even a character like Tesla or Clue, especially if you've seen the movie Legacy in terms of Clue, in a way, it's like they don't have free will. Because if you remember the conclusion in Legacy, or near the conclusion, where Clue is like face to face with Flynn, the Elder, at the, kind of the climax of the movie in the grid, and he's Flynn feels compassionate towards Clue at the end because he tells him, like, it's not your fault because when I created you, I didn't know the things that I know now, and so again, like, it, in a way, it doesn't seem like Clue as a character or program had free will, because Flynn is essentially telling him at his end, it's not your fault because it could go no other way. And to say it could go no other way, even if figuratively, that's essentially saying you didn't have free will, in the sense that you were always going to go down this path one way or the other.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's fair, but it also sounds insane to get so much into philosophy talk on a Disney XD program.
This was definitely heavy. I don't want to like move away from that, but I definitely want to at least say there was also some good horror, or at least I thought some like good pseudo horror, even maybe light horror. I'm not really sure, but just Beck gets washed into this, like, I don't even know what you would call it, like it looks like it is water, or like looks like it's fluid, and then it like pushes him down, and he's not under this fluid, but he's like it's really cool. And then there's this like monolith that's there, like a mirror, like something out of Superman.
It does remind me of that Superman Phantom Zone, but also it kind of reminded me of that scene in the Star Wars movie I don't like to name, Episode 8.
Good, you and I are on the same page.
It kind of reminded me of that Rey scene. Well, actually, a lot.
It's one of the better parts of that movie. I think you could probably agree with it. I say better, but
slice.
That's true.
There's a lot of good standalone slices in that movie.
Yes.
But yeah, it reminded me of that. Oh, also, side note, we were talking yesterday on a different podcast, Best Picture.
Spoilers.
About how Chris Evans can just like randomly show up in a movie.
Oh, yeah.
And you may not even recognize him. Well, now I realize I'm explaining this out of the order I wanted to, but oh well. So I was thinking, if this episode was live action, there's 2 actors I would 100% choose to play the stranger if this was a live action.
Other than his actor?
Right. Because it's also very obvious because of the voice actor who it is in the series. But if this was a live action remake or make, I've already tipped my hand that I could 100% see Chris Evans dressed up like how this character looks, and like it would just make sense to me if we're watching the live action and then later you're like, oh, it was Chris Evans the whole time. Like, I could just totally see that. Or because of his reputation in other movies, it would have to be Matt Damon.
You know what? Yeah, I could see it.
Ultimately, it would get revealed that it was Matt Damon.
He's Dr. Man.
So I'm sorry, but that's all I could think was this guy could be portrayed by Chris Evans or Matt Damon if it was live action.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. I could see it. But I think Aaron Paul does a good job with it. I think his voice is pretty distinct, and I liked his performance.
Yeah, for sure.
What a prison! Like it reminds me of the Millennium Puzzle. Not really necessarily, but the Millennium Puzzle, and the inside of the Millennium Puzzle, was modeled after like the M.C. Escher images, paintings, drawings, descriptions of like a non-Newtonian or Euclidean space, in a way where, like, you don't really have things that make sense because it's a lot more like complex quantum mechanics and physics. So even though it was more linear, I kind of got the same sense, and I liked how for him he was like walking on the floor vertically, whereas Beck was still obeying the laws of physics and treating it as, I'm going horizontally, I'm going vertically, not horizontally.
Wait a second, what's the Millennium Puzzle?
Sorry, excuse me, I completely forgot Yu-Gi-Oh. My apologies. Some Millennium Puzzle in Yu-Gi-Oh. The inside of it, whenever they go inside of the Millennium Puzzle in Yu-Gi-Oh, it's always these like elaborate, like these stairwells that kind of go in on each other almost, or they like not cross site, but like it's the MC Escher type thing where it's like, oh,
Yeah, I
there's
know
one
what that
staircase that goes
is,
down.
but see, I know nothing of Yu-Gi-Oh other than still images and seeing some uh, guys who have grown up and still do that stuff on social media, like pretend like they're doing Yu-Gi-Oh stuff, which I
I
don't,
would.
I don't understand any of it. Um, and so then I didn't know, and I looked up, so I see what a Millennium Puzzle is, at least in Yu-Gi-Oh, but I didn't. How would I know it's a thing you can enter and that would be like,
Forgive me.
because when you said Millennium Puzzle, I was thinking it was either like a famous architectural building that exists in real life
I wish.
that has interesting architecture, or when you describe it as like Escher, like I don't know if you've seen Squid Games, but it reminds me of that like central atrium stairwell area that they show a lot in that show, which is also Escher inspired in the same kind of way.
So, what do you think of this? Of this Aaron Paul character? I forget his name, or just a stranger. I don't know if he gets. Does he give a name?
I don't know, but they've given his name prior. Now that's the thing.
Oh yeah, right. In in the two-parter at the previous block.
Yeah, if you haven't been paying attention to the credits and whatnot, like if you were watching this show in real time, episode by episode, if you haven't been paying attention to the credits, then I don't know that it's been revealed to the audience who he is. But if you have watched the credits, then it's obvious who he is. And what do you think? Would the audience, okay, if you were strictly just watching this week by week, is the information there or has it been presented to where, because maybe they literally say his name, I don't know, but is the information there without reading credits as to who this person is?
Well, they say in the starting credits, like in the begin, like credits in the opening, or cold up, whatever. They say guest starring Aaron Paul. So logically, you would then go to the end credits, and then they will say, they will relist, all who is part of the cast, and then you'll see Aaron Paul's name, and
So
then
right, so if you don't read the credits, have characters spoken or said names to where you would know who this character is? Because I don't know, because they maybe have or maybe haven't. I don't know.
I actually do not remember that part of like if he ever, other than introducing himself as the first Tron Legacy. I don't know if he gives a name
So
to
are we going
Beck or
to
for
call the
Beck.
stranger Tron 82 now?
You can if you want, but it would actually be Tron 89, I guess, instead, or whatever the Joseph Krasinski short film was.
Uh, I think I'm not 100% sure if it also went by the name Derezed or not. I'm not sure if that was a pseudonym for the demo reel, the sizzle
I
reel.
see.
I'm not
Of
sure if it
course.
was called Derezed or not.
Yes.
But anyway, okay. So let's say you have been reading the credits.
All right.
So then who is the stranger besides Aaron Paul?
Right. Well, again, there was a name mentioned at the end of that, like episode 10, if I
Yes.
recall.
Yes.
And I think that was also Aaron Paul, if I recall. And I'm pretty sure he gives a name to
Yes.
Tron.
Yes.
But I forgot the name.
Cyrus.
Right. Thank you. I should know this because that's a Yu-Gi-Oh! GX character.
Oh, it's weird because I know the former wrestler named Cyrus.
Or, well, at least in the English dub, that's his name.
Yeah, it is interesting how many names, like most of the names of random characters in the Tron universe up to this point have been like some Greek names, Greek and Roman. But then I guess Cyrus goes back to Babylon, the name. But it is interesting how many characters have names that are inspired by.
It's funny you should mention where he's from because for some odd reason, his device. I wasn't thinking of the Tower of Babel, but I just suddenly had this feeling of like, okay, this is well, the one this reminds me of a machine from the movie Metropolis, not that one, the anime movie Metropolis, excuse me,
Okay,
from
I
like
know of it, but I
'99 or
don't
2000.
think I've seen it.
Great movie, wonderful, and it has like a doomsday device that's kind of similar to this. And but man, again, the monolith, Phantom Zone piece of glass, in like that scene, and then when Beck starts get like he's locked into the machine or he's locked in that chair and he starts getting like that vision or whatever, he's seeing something of like I think it was either Tron or Cyrus. He just suddenly goes into like, the tunnel in the end of 2001. I'm like, this is like, not only were you saying like, oh, they were doing, some light philosophy talk or whatever in this episode, in this random like Disney show, but
Well, I
suddenly
was saying
they
it was
do.
us doing the light philosophy talk on the Disney show.
Oh, okay, never mind. But well, you could do that if you were watching Gargoyles, I guess. But then all of a sudden you have like him, yeah, going down the monolith or going into the monolith in 2001, and I'm like, this is insane. I was not expecting this in a Disney show. Out of nowhere, of just like him, like suddenly we're like going in the mind of a program. Like that just seems like we're within space within space within space.
One thing I thought that was cool in a weird way, with the way the stranger looks, his appearance. So recently, because I acquired a Switch 2 in real life, makes me wonder what kind of programs reside inside my Switch 2. But anyway,
Oh, if only you knew.
they're proprietary. Yeah, uh, but so I got a Switch 2 relatively recently in the real world, and I was looking for some type of grip slash casing, to protect it while
Yes.
playing in handheld. And I like looking on the web when I'm looking for something like this, or like when I'm looking for a phone case. I like to find like boutique makers of such things on the interwebs rather than just like the stuff you find at a big box store. And so I stumbled across this brand that people know who are into handheld consoles or phones. There's a brand called D Brand. I don't know if you'd heard of them. I'm not doing a paid
Not to,
sponsorship or
yeah.
anything, but they are a brand that specializes in making cases for phones and handheld devices like Steam Decks and Switches, etc. And so I was looking at their site and I was looking at their custom products, and I did find a grip that I liked for the Switch too. And they have all these different types of skins that you can choose from to make it a little bit more customized. And there's a lot to choose from, but there's one in particular that really stood out to me. And part of the reason was because I have Tron on the brain right now for obvious reasons. And so I got this skin for the casing that looks identical to that circuitry type of pattern that the stranger has on his body. And I can't wait to get the skin in the mail. I didn't realize the company was based out of the UK, so I'm waiting for it to arrive from the UK. But I can't wait to get it because it looks like the skin of the stranger, except when you have it on your Switch, or I'm gonna have to get a matching phone case to go along with it. Um, it not only does it have that design, but it glows in the dark. So in the daylight, it looks like the black and white photos on set of Tron 82, where it's like a white background with like black lines. But then at night, it flips and it basically glows and looks like the stranger. I know this doesn't really have anything to do with Tron specifically, but I just couldn't stop thinking it because I ordered this case before I saw this episode.
Yeah, it's all good, bud. It's your podcast as well, so you can go in whatever direction you want because it makes sense into this discussion. And honestly, yeah, I did like Cyrus's look to this. I thought it was a lot different, and it did definitely show like what has happened to him. And again, I don't know everything that he's saying. I'm not saying unreliable narrator, but obviously something happened between when he helped Tron out in that crash, and then what eventually led to it. And I don't know if we're going to get that in the last 4 episodes, or again, if this was, you know, something that they were going to pick up later on in the next season. I am not sure at all. By the way, I cannot remember if it's the next, like 14 or 15. We see the reintroduction of Hyli.
Yes, I forgot.
I know, but I can't remember. Was that 12 or 13?
I don't think it's either of those. Oh gosh.
No, because 13, The Stranger, this one that we're still talking about, does start off with Beck already going towards his, like, you know, destination. So it wouldn't have been that. It was one where he was a lot more, like, comfortable with, like, the role he was in. Oh, flipping it. Oh, it might have been 11, actually, now that I think about it. Yeah, I think it was episode 11.
It is episode 11. It's very near the beginning of the episode. Actually, I think it's right after we have the cold open. We have the little short credit thing, and then yeah, it's basically around 2:48 or so into the episode.
Okay, thank you.
And yes, I'm glad you brought it up because I wanted to bring up the grid spiders because that was on my speculation card. And
Yep.
Highlight was on your speculation card, I think.
Hey, I was right. I got that. Yay, sweet.
So when I saw the episode, I remember, yeah, I was 100% thinking of you.
Thank you.
There you go. You got the Highlight.
No, I'm glad I got Highlight, and I'm glad I saw it in real life. Not like, you know, up close, but at least
Correction,
I saw
3:45 in the episode.
On TV. Thank you very much. On TV, I at least saw a match being held, and it's so great. Back to 13. Sorry. Prison, great. Doomsday Device, insane. And maybe a slight, maybe this is just me projecting, maybe a slight version of what happens at the end of Tron Legacy, the movie, where, you know, both antimatter and matter interacting, boom. That being like, you know, Kevin Flynn and Clue, they, you know, combine themselves and then boom.
I was also thinking, switching gears back to episode 13, it's that idea. It's a couple ideas that we're familiar with from other things. It's a little bit like Thanos, of course. Like, solution is basically getting rid of a big part of the world.
Or, actually, funny, what I was also thinking of, the Genesis device from Wrath of Khan.
Well, speaking of Genesis, that's where I was going next, except not Star Trek Genesis, but it's germane being Genesis, because another topic we've been discussing on podcasts, not necessarily this one recently,
overarching plot that we've had, or
the
discussion
idea
we've had.
of flood stories and resetting, and plus Babylon was mentioned not too long ago. And so it's a play on the Thanos thing, and I forget, Thanos in mythology and in the MCU or Marvel, what's his relation? Like, Thanos in mythology is what, one of the Titans?
Well, I think it's Thanatos. I don't know if he's a
Thanatos.
I don't know if he's a Titan. I forget. Forgive me, all you English majors.
But is he Death, or is he like a component of Death?
He's related to. He's not fully Death, but he is in relation to the underworld, I believe. I think he's lesser than Hades, if I recall, but he's not Death itself.
And what's interesting, or not, in mythology, when I looked up Cyrus earlier, who in mythology actually conquered the Babylonians to rescue the Jewish people. So again, that is in my mind like a dark angel aspect, which is it's twisting on the real Cyrus, in that the real Cyrus is supposed to save a people, and this Cyrus is also has the intent of saving a people, but at the same time destroying them.
It's funny how the original Tron from 1982 has the Mobius designs, with costumes at least. And this one does have an art direction, but it has, you know, I don't want to say the standard, but they do have the words. They have the backstories. They have mythologies in the way of words and what they mean, and that they actually do have like a twist on them, or at least they have allusions to them. So
You're making me think about a lot because earlier you're talking about the Zeus character, and I was thinking, okay, obviously a mythological name. And then
I
where else are we aware of a mythological name in the Tron series franchise?
oh well, Path to War, obviously. It did make me once again wonder, like, because every now and then we'll have this with Beck, where it's like, okay, and this is classic um, serials or whatever, going back to pulp novels or even comic books of how he's in this predicament. How in the writer's name is or user's name is he gonna get out of this? Like in episode 11, Tesla has him with the Omega arms, and then in comes Abel with the save. How is Beck gonna get out of this chair? Is somebody going to save him from off screen or what have you? No, he just breaks out. So I'm not saying that was a letdown, but I was like, okay, he's got this stuff, like this stuff. He also mentions Cyrus the stranger mentions Alpha and Omega. I'm like, okay, he's now quoting the book, at least, or that that verse or those two words. I'm like, okay, well, he's seeing things differently than we are, I guess, in a way. If Tron, or if Beck is to be the last understudy of Tron, I'm not really sure, but yeah, I definitely not let down, but I was definitely like, I was kind of hoping that Beck would have a way to get out of this scenario. But
And one wonders about this trope of the first attempt at like a successor or savior or whatever.
yeah, the prototype in a way.
Yeah, because I mean it's another take on Clue, because the Clue character, as expressed in the Legacy movie, is someone who is designed to be the torchbearer, but ended up not being correct, not by his own fault, and that's like the tragedy of his story arc in the movie.
And he kind of has a weird higher ground thing as well. So
A weird
in
eyebrow.
that he can bend physics almost in a way to be on the ground at all times without ever worrying about falling off. But I guess that's his downfall. But then it turns out, yeah, he's alive, I guess, by the
Also,
end.
what is it with the imagery of his prism or domain or whatever you want to call it? I said prism, but I meant to say prison.
Well, it could be a prism in a way.
But right, but it obviously looks like an eyeball, right?
Yep,
And a cornea and everything else.
yep, an eye. The all-seeing eye.
So what are they saying? Like, is it like his character Cyrus is like a third eye situation where
Ooh,
he is seeing beyond what others in the grid see?
there you go.
Imagine if I wish there was an expanded universe of like Tron novels or comics, because you could get into all this
Well,
stuff.
this, I guess, counts.
Because you could do a little side story, or if you did like an Animatrix compilation for like Tron universe, you could certainly have a story of like a regular everyday program who lives in this world, who, because of reasons, somehow sees through a portal into the real world, the user world. And you could do like a whole mini story of that character going insane because they have seen what no one else has seen, and they can't explain it to someone. They can't deal with it on their own. And you could 100% imagine that. Like, that would be great if they ever made that, because the future of the franchise is shrouded at this point in the real world. Um, Perhaps, like, how could Tron continue and live on? Perhaps if they had like a direct to video, direct to Disney Plus series like Visions or What Ifs or something with Tron. Like, gosh, that would be so. Anyway, I'm dreaming.
Although to be fair, that like that user or that yeah, it's not user, that program that would see into the real world would be like, oh, it's just like us because they would realize that there is also traffic in the real world, and so they would be like, oh no, this is fine, we're good. It sucks up there. It's no different than down here.
Yeah, what are they trying to say with this eye? And then I forgot how much like 2001 that sequence is because it just came
Yeah.
up on screen right now. And someone write this down. I'm going to try to remember some of this imagery
Ooh.
and bring it up in a later prognosis negative that we're going to do.
Unrelated to Tron, or perhaps, or you can't.
Related to Tron, perhaps.
Okay, noted. Have to strike that on the notes to be like, all right, remember this.
Because I would not have remembered all of this if we wouldn't have been focusing on this so much right now, this second.
Oh, of course. And lastly, Beck gets cancer or whatever that is.
Well, it's easy to imagine actually cancer, like biological cancer, in a program because that's literally what happens all the time.
Yep.
I can't see the time counter, but I'm assuming we've gone really long. So for the sake of, I'm kind of speaking just to you, even though it sounds like I'm speaking.
1 hour 48 minutes.
Oh God, let's zoom through the last two episodes.
Okay, that's fair because these, other than like I said, Tron gets some sort of like Beck. Now has some sort of like either disease infection or whatever have you, and he's keeping it from Tron in the next. I think it's one of the episodes. Yeah, they at least bring it. They keep seeding it. They at least show it. So it's like, okay, that's good that we know something's going on with him. I don't know what that is.
So let's zoom through this. I mean, let's kind of combine and zoom through the last two episodes.
These next two are what I dub the Mara has a character arc.
Well, we established she started to have one already in this block.
Yes, that's true.
And so we're continuing it, which of course I'm here for it. I'm surprised we're on the third of 4 blocks on this series, and I have not mentioned yet, I don't think, how I was a huge fan of Mandy Moore as an actress in the 2000s, the aughts. I remember when she came on the scene as a pop artist, and I just never really cared to look into her music or anything like that. But she had a couple roles. I can't remember which one I saw first, but she was in a movie called Saved, and she had a reoccurring guest role on some seasons of Scrubs. And after I saw her in those roles, I have been a fan of her as an actress in like anything she's been in. And I always felt like she should have had a even bigger acting career than she has had. And yeah, I've been remiss to bring this up this entire time we've been talking about this show. And so that's another reason why I especially like that her character has been having more to do. And so with the last 2 episodes, because other than developing Mara, it doesn't really feel important. These okay, so the resistance is rising, obviously, and we have these people who are basically like little Banksy running around Tronland, and one of them I like how they make such unique character models for these little side characters and things that pop up in this show. And okay, so we have this like little resistance thing, and I didn't realize it until I asked you to watch, and I sent you the link for Brand New Day or the Next Day, Tron the Next Day. I didn't even realize that the font in the series Uprising for all the Tron Live stuff, I did not realize it was the same font as the Flynn Lives in the Next Day.
There you go. Connection.
So I thought that was pretty cool because even though I watched the Next Day a few days back, it wasn't until today that I realized, oh yeah, look at that.
But not the Next Day. Got it.
But I also do like the sort of graffiti, like helmet graffiti on the new Resistance. Any thoughts on that?
Oh, I mean, this was a great one because from the previous episode, Beck is still kind of, well, he should definitely be scarred from what happened, being, kind of locked inside this like weird, space within a space place, and having the prototype Tron Legacy in there. It's great. Or Tron derezzed, or whatever you want to call it. He almost does get derezzed. I like that he has some qualms, or at least has some apprehensions with Trump. He's never like, oh, Tron can't be trusted. He's more just like, yeah, what's that? And there's like a metagame going on where Tron wonders if he knows what he's talking about or not. I kind of like that back and forth. But ultimately, we have the what is it? The not the Sons of Batman, but what would you call it, from the Dark Knight, where those imposter Batmans show up. And this one's finally important because it's like I was waiting to see if there was going to be anybody who rides alongside, or is a part of this, this movement, this crusade, this resistance. And I was finally happy to see that. I was actually thinking that Mara was going to be that lady that Beck saves in episode 11. Initially, I thought she was going to be the one who like is past curfew. She has a like extended chase sequence in the beginning of that episode. I thought she was going to be Mara, but it doesn't turn out that way, just because it was going to be a familiar face, and that would have like given her something like this to do. But instead, it was Mara. Instead, I was actually surprised by that. And yeah, the how they portray the Banksy graffiti art, I really did enjoy. I thought that was very well done in the episode.
I tell you what, I think it was really funny because I forgot about it until I started playing the episode right now. So there's the graffiti, the opening scene, and then I think it is so funny, the imagery of the Praetorian guards or whatever, the red guards, cleaning the graffiti, trying to scrub it off the wall.
Oh yeah,
it the way it's modeled and animated is funny to me in of itself. It's not the same as, but one of my favorite goofy visuals in Toy Story 95 that tickles me every time I watch the movie, and everyone else is just like, yeah, okay, whatever. I'm sorry, I have to bring this up. It's when they're all in the beginning of the movie, all the toys are in the room, and they're listening on the walkie-talkies to what's happening downstairs. And I can't remember who or why. Maybe Rex is like shaking the end table or something, but the walkie-talkie gets knocked onto the floor and the batteries fly out. And something me and my cousins back in the day used to think was so funny was just the imagery of Mr. Potato Head trying to put the batteries back in, and he's literally just ramming it up and down like a pickaxe. And it just looks so funny to me and so futile. And that's what the Red Guards look like to me when they're just going dirt, 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 trying to remove the graffiti.
Like literally bit by bit, like 8-bit by 8-bit.
Yeah, it's like trying to clear a light bright in the old days, except pixel by pixel.
I like the end that Mara is still on Beck's side, or at least the Tron Legacy character side. And the other two kind of realize after they get, their ambitions of like, no, we really want to help. And they're not, I hope they don't end up, betraying later on down the line. I hope they don't betray Legacy, but they kind of gave the spiel of like, yeah, we had no idea who this guy is. And I was also surprised. I'm like, oh, we're actually finally doing this. I was where there's going to be followers almost, which we need in this case, because I want to start seeing society, turn against Tesla and actually like, fight back in a way.
And something else, just like I had questions, what were they earlier in this block where I was like, what was I going back and forth about that made no sense? Was it about Abel, Cyrus? Maybe it was multiple things where, is this person good? Is this person bad? What's going on? With the other taggers, I kept going back and forth. Like, first I was like, okay, yeah, these guys are really wanting to be in the Resistance. And then I thought, oh no, maybe these guys just join the resistance because they have ulterior motives. And then, oh no, I'm thinking maybe they're double agents, maybe they're moles, and then I'm like, no, maybe they're just boneheads. Like,
Perhaps.
I was all over the place with these guys.
I see them as like the maybe like I don't know, like chaotic good versions or neutral good versions of like Bartik and Hopper. You know, those two fools who bully Zed all the time and who want to be or want to be like bosses, thinking that they're a part of Teslar's army when they're not.
Right.
Um, they're kind of like the like opposites of those two, but they realize like
Oh, I see what you're saying.
once the fighting starts
They're the
happening, once
foil.
they realize like, oh shoot, we actually do need to like fight. He's like, oh, this is bad, or they kind of like turn tail and leave. But
Yeah,
I
they're the
don't
foil version. Yeah,
exactly.
you're absolutely right. I didn't even think about that. Yes, they reminded me of them, but no, you're right. They're literally the foil.
But I'll give them this: they at least, uh, I think by the end their characters do change, regardless of them like leave. They still believe. I still like that. They do believe in Tron. They just don't want to be that active as much, and I appreciate that. I think that's fine. And we even see like, oh, he like one of them almost gets derezzed, and his hand is kind of like translucent by this point. So it's like the scars are showing in what it means to fight, and if you don't have 100% commit, or if you don't have a plan going forward. So I do like this episode for at least tackling that initially, and I think we will see more followers start to join loosely, and that actually leads to the very next episode where I almost thought that um, where there's systematic attacks on just people everywhere, and I thought like with these exploding tanker trucks or whatever, these exploding semi trucks, excuse me, I was worried like, oh, is Tesla going to put the blame on Tron or on Tron Legacy, excuse me, the Renegade? Is he going to like pin the blame? Like, look at this, he's like setting off all these buses or all these semi trucks, and it's destroying our city. How could he? Not really. It was once again weaponizing the masses and mind controlling them.
I got a rhetorical question.
By all means.
Why does the one tagger look so much to me like he is the love child of Spock and Gru put together?
Um,
He has a very distinct look, which is yes, there's many characters with unique faces, but his particularly stands out to me.
I'm trying to see the Spock in him. Hang on a second. Let me see. There's
You don't see the Spock in him. He looks so Vulcan. He looks like if Gru had a elongated features, like volcanic. That sounds weird. Volcanic features.
no. You mean where this? Yeah, his like Gru's face is a lot smaller and rounder than this, but he has obviously the schnoz. This guy's a lot more long faced and has a chin that rival. Well, actually, I don't even. Well, yeah, no, he's got a chin that rivals Jay Leno or Bruce Campbell, and then the other dude is just a five head. Like that dude's got a bunch of stuff cooking in his brain.
And on these two episodes as well, remember how I mentioned in a previous block how when they were going after that guy who had stolen something, stolen Beck's disc, and I had said like they were like in a bar nightclub type area,
Yep.
and then they kind of go into the back access ways,
Yep.
which we don't see that kind of stuff in the grid usually, like in the live action or anything like that, where it almost looks like something from the tangible world rather than the electronic world. We get that again a bit in this episode 14 and a lot more in episode 15. And I was just looking at it here in 14. There's a part or a brief transitional scene where it looks like there's bolts like on the wall. Like for the Tron program characters, the bolts look like they would be as big as maybe a little bit bigger than a vinyl record to us, like if we were holding one in front of our faces. Like there's bolts, they look like actual physical bolts. There's a lot of scenery image, background imagery in this episode that particularly looks like the insides of a PC. Like if you take the cover off, and you look at the internals, like the cooling, um, the cooling coils and other things that you would find. Yeah, a lot of this episode looks like the interior of a PC. And in the next episode, I don't know what I'm looking at, but it wherever that factory is or whatever, that's in the next episode, right? Or
In
am I thinking
15?
that? Yeah,
Okay, yeah, sorry. So 14, you were talking about 14 where there's a lot of like
internal
we're seeing like
components of
the
a
up
PC.
against, yeah, well, okay, yep. And
And
then
is
we
the
go
next
to
one where what's the one where there's all these guys who are trapped in a factory situation? Is that the next one? Oh no, that's the one with Abel. I'm sorry. It's
which we never talked about, by the way. You just gotta quickly.
yeah,
Sorry, I
the
want to
episode
like
where Abel
reverse.
goes on his side quest and he's
Yep.
pretending to work in that whatever.
And then we see Dyson, and then Tron shows up. They
Yes,
kick
that's
butt,
the other
and
one
then
where like
there's a
I'm trying to
what are those things called again? What are the ships? It's basically like because Tron's worried that there's like there's a weapon that they're uncovering because Dyson's in the area, and then I guess out pops a super star destroyer or whatever you want
oh
to call it.
yeah,
I'm like, that's
okay,
it.
they're called recognizers.
Thank you. So it's a
Um,
super recognizer destroyer.
yeah, I used to think those were the space paranoids themselves from the in-universe video games space
Yes.
paranoids, but they're actually called recognizers,
Yep.
and that's certainly said like I believe in the Legacy movie and in this series and maybe something else. And
Well, that's not a spoiler if it's in Aries.
but
We see it fire a bunch of missiles in
I know we
the
see it, but I'm talking
trailer.
about speaking the name recognizer.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
And by the way, this is another side thought I've been having this entire conversation. When I was talking about what do these programs, and like I said, the tanks could be this, and the speeder bikes are obviously like some type of high speed travel
Analogies.
within circuit. Yes, analogs. Um, so the recognizers, I was thinking about it. Like, they're called recognizers, obviously. We see in Tronity 2 how they can reconfigure their feet and legs to stomp on things and take them out of existence. And we also see in in the opening of Legacy, they're sort of used like they use the recognizers to go around finding rogue programs, and then they use them as like transport ships, like for prisoners. Or
Yeah, multi-use item.
yeah, so
Basically.
I'm thinking recognizers are kind of like a combination of, and also using the name recognizer. I see it as kind of like using File Explorer on Windows
Oh yeah.
and like searching for a particular file because it can't hide. If you can figure out, you know, what to search under, it'll find the file and then it can eliminate it if you want it to, or you can gather it, which is what they use the recognizers for in the movies, is to either find something like a bounty hunter ship and then carrying the bounty. Um, and so yeah, I yeah. Oh, this is so cool. I forgot there's a recognizer in this episode 11, 14, where they completely cover it with graffiti. That is so
Yep.
cool.
And in 15, we find out they can project in between their arms like a holographic projection or video.
I think we see it earlier than that. I think they used that in an earlier episode as well.
Or maybe it was 11. I don't know. Either way. But yeah, we get a super recognizer destroyer, which is another plot thread of like, okay, well, Dyson now has that. Or was there a weapon on that ship? I'm not exactly sure. Or was that just a regular sized recognizer? I'm not sure.
Back when they had the toys for Tron 82, I don't believe they ever made anything like it, but I always wanted to have some sort of toy recognizer because there's something about the design of it, which is sort of like what I used to think about the Enterprise when I was introduced to TOS as a young kid, or like the B Wing and Star Wars. Like it has a physical shape that seems to make no sense, rhyme or reason, because it's one of those rare flying objects that is not aerodynamic and doesn't seem functional
Oh, of
in
course
any
not.
possible way, because how can he even fit through spaces, like it makes no sense. But something about that was always appealing to me, and I really wish I had a recognizer. I'm sure I could probably get one 3D printed on Etsy or something, but I wish they would just make one, at least a keychain or something. But anyway, so yeah, I just think it's interesting because I think it's only in this animated series where we see objects in the scenery and background that very clearly look like physical components of the innards of electronic devices or computers or
Yes.
whatever.
Hardware.
As far as I can think, we've never seen anything like that in any of the live action movies. I don't know. It just makes me think.
Well, yeah, it's a good thing that they were actually thinking about that with like environmental design and saying like, well, let's actually have things like resemble something from actual computer hardware.
And I'm not sure what that was supposed to depict. That wall skin that was used in that Foundry Factory episode with Abel, because it definitely looked like it's supposed to be something. I need to go back to it another time. It looks like it's supposed to look like something in the real world, but I am not sure what that is. Jumping back to 15 so we can kind of round things out.
Yep.
So it's called State of Mind, and yeah, it's kind of, if you've seen the episode, I guess the play of words makes sense. Because it is like about a mind control situation, and it seems okay. Jump in at any time, but it's made very clear, right, that it seems like Tesla or what's the other guy's name, the one who's also working for Clue,
Pavlov or Dyson?
Dyson. So I can't remember whose idea this is. The whole thing with the trucks, or I don't even know if they revealed whose idea it is.
I think it was Tesla because they were all drones.
Tesla. So obviously it seems like the plan is like they have this gas, and I'm not sure if they explain or show how they make the gas, but it obviously seems intentional to load up these tankers, have them out in public, and they basically take over. And because I watched Temple of Doom yesterday, it's just like if you imbibe the blood that they have in the temple, you basically get put under mind control. And so obviously it seems like the plan. And we see in Legacy the movie, which obviously takes place after this, that Clue's plan is to like convert programs and repurpose them to be part of his Red Army. So this seems like a early experimentation in that cause.
I did note that too. I was like, oh yeah, we're starting to see that where there's conversions happening.
Yeah. So on the one hand, does this feel like it's just like another redo of the weapon episode in the earlier block, or was that gas somehow maybe derived? But then that doesn't make sense because Pavel has it, but nobody knows he has it, or it's just I don't know.
And then there's the doctor character. This I think, is it Kessel or something like that? I forget.
Yes, I was going to ask you.
Keller. That's who it is. It's Keller. She shows up. She's a brand new face, and by the way, she's almost a near stand-in for, as you mentioned, the eponymous Aeon Flux. Like she actually kind of looks like her as well. So for her not to be the femme fatale and actually, kind of under hostage, I was actually happy with. Like she was wearing the red or orange, but she was not like.
Isaac's happy that a female character got taken hostage. Okay.
Sure, that's exactly what I said. But I was happy that she was not, in the plan. She was like a doctor instead. She was like, I'm not for this at all. I don't want this. And in the end, she wants, like, she's happy to help with, or at least lines of convenience. She's not for the cause, but she's just like, yeah, the renegade is here and he's going to help me escape. So it's like, that was at least a good thing for her. But for once, I was happy that it wasn't somebody who was like evil plan, similar to like you said, the weapon episode where the Venom program exists.
Yeah. And also, I'm glad I replayed the episode from the beginning. We get another cameo / Easter egg in the series. We get actual bit.
Yep.
Or at least a bit. I don't know if it's always the same bit or different bits,
I'm
But
assuming it's different, but you can,
remember, we saw sort of like a physical representation of Bit in as like Easter egg in Legacy the movie. Now we actually get to see a Bit in full form, and so I
Yep.
thought that was super cool.
Yep. I agree. I was like, hey, it's Bit.
Yes, no, but yeah, I kind of want to close it out just because of time and everything.
Oh, and Mara was evil. It's funny how we ended the episode 14 with her still working with Tron, even though he didn't want her directly involved, or the Renegade, whatever, Tron Legacy. But in this one, it is funny how they then pair it with her immediately having red eyes and red hair. She could change her hair into being evil, sucking lemons.
Yeah, red kryptonite, but also I
Oh,
noticed.
yep, no, exactly.
But also I noticed when there was a close up of her eyeballs early in the episode, and when she's staring at the recognizers and her eyes are kind of like pulsating red, her eyes kind of look like Sark's memory disk from '82 Tron.
Ooh, that's a pull.
Yeah, not exactly, but very reminiscent. So I don't know if that was intentional or not, but it's definitely reminiscent.
Yeah, of course. Anyways, yeah, Renegade shuts down the tower, destroys the tower. It was an outside job, and Pavel escapes. I did like that fight scene where Beck could not help but toy with Pavel. Like he still was, it does show like A, how inept Pavel is in hand-to-hand combat, and B, I think how far Beck has come with his hand-to-hand fighting.
Yeah. And something, okay, we'll close out. I just want to, this is a side point of something I've been thinking about watching this series. Just from an animation point of view. And by the way, I forget the name, it's in my notes somewhere. This is a Japanese animation studio who did the CG animation for the most part.
Polygon Pictures.
On this, what is it?
Polygon Pictures?
Is it Polygon?
Oh, I thought it was part of them, but it could be.
It could be. I don't remember. I literally don't remember. I looked it up earlier, but I just find it interesting that so this series obviously in air date predates Star Wars Rebels because Disney had not yet acquired Star Wars at this time. That being said, though, there are so many unique character models. Yes, maybe the males and females share the same character models, but certainly the heads are also very unique and distinct, even for characters who are inconsequential or just in the background or just show up in one period. They're all very unique, and I love that. And I brought this up before in previous discussions, perhaps on a podcast or not, with you and or Caleb, but I could never understand then, and I still don't understand why in Rebels season 1, outside of the main cast, all the other character models for a couple of alien species and humans, it's the exact same character models used over and over, especially in season 1. All they do is repaint and reskin them, but they're the exact character model. And it's like they only have like a set of 8 character models to work with, and they just keep using those same 8 over and over and over in season 1. I don't understand why. This is a brand new show, obviously first season, and we get so many different vehicles and costumes and faces and everything. Whereas, yes, Rebels was a new show, but I'm sure there's a lot of carryover from animators who worked on original Clone Wars, etc., with Filoni. And I get it was a new art style. It wasn't the exact same as Clone Wars. Why was it so hard to create more character models that they had to reuse the same faces and bodies over and over for season? I don't know. I need an animator who works in the business who can explain that to me, why they couldn't even switch out the faces. I don't know. I don't know anything about 3D animation. Someone explain this to me.
Well, I'm not one animator yet. Fingers crossed. But what I do know is I have noticed in the background, if you pay attention closely in Tron Uprising, you can see that they do reuse some, not all, but sometimes I will see
Oh, you mean like
some
for the characters,
recognizable.
like for instance, sorry to sound like I'm so anxious and ready to cut you off, but um, you mean like maybe like in some of the dance club scenes, and you have like the
Yes,
random. Yes, okay,
there
yes,
are background characters that do share some faces, but they either use them sparingly or they do wide shots that don't focus on on the characters' faces too
yeah. Look,
much.
I'm
But it's
perfectly okay
fine.
with that because in Rebels they wouldn't even do that. Again, they only had like 6 models to use, so they would have to reuse those same 6 for if they were doing those dance club scenes. You would see all the same 6 dancing around. You'd see the same 6 being who the NPCs, who the characters are talking to, the main characters. And so even though they do reuse people in the background, like you say, at least it's not literally the same 6 cut and pasted all over the place.
And to be fair, this like art direction is also very stylized versus not that Rebels wasn't, but I don't know why I like the stylization of this series more than Rebels looks.
I
I don't know
find it
why.
incredibly diverse. Like, there's some video games I play that are um, like PS3 generation, PS4 generation, especially Muso games that have like a ton of repeated characters because of all the armadas and everything. But you do not in video games in that era, you do not see this much variety in random vehicles and things in the background. Like it just seems like they put so much time. But again, I said before also because they were using the same lead art designer who produced a lot of the or produced the vehicles for Tron Legacy, the movie. Maybe he had a lot of these concepts already on hand, because
Yeah,
they were already produced but not used in the actual movie. So hey, why not just throw it all into here? No, even the light cycles. There's so many variants we get to see, um, not just of the old gen, but even the more modern legacy design. We get to see a lot of different variants, oftentimes just in the background.
and speaking of which, Zed gets his, I guess, original upgrade. I say upgrade, but his speedy light cycle back as well. That Beck gives back to him, secretly and discreetly,
Yeah,
which at least wins him some. Because that's another big like thing of this episode where Mara is taking over, like has the mind control on her, as I said, and then Zed has to work with the renegade. Oh boy, this is like a big like challenging his morals in a way.
thank goodness. I'm glad, especially with all the criticism I lobbied towards the Zed character, who I really didn't like in the first block.
Well, hey, that's character progression, and
Yes, thank goodness.
4 episodes remaining to find out whether or not my bingo card is going to be an empty slot where he is not going to pull a heel face or pull a face heel. Excuse me, he's going to become a heel.
It really doesn't seem that way anymore now that we're this far in.
It is not going that way, or whatever. What would the opposite of your catchphrase be? It is not going that way.
Hold on.
In the meantime, we also have, as Eric was mentioning, quite extensively about background characters' faces changing. Dr. Keller changes her face, injects herself with a solution to hide from, I guess, like at least facial appearance wise, not so much identity disc, of course, but she hides her face with like the solution she's come up with, and she's on the run. So I don't know if she's gonna return somehow, but that is definitely a hint or a clue that they have set up and might come back to never, just because there's 4 episodes remaining, so they probably would do this in season 2 or whenever.
I don't know what the opposite would be. If it would be, it will go any other way.
It will go a different way.
It will go any way but this.
We'll keep researching it and developing into a better catchphrase than this.
Yeah, I think we've more than said enough. But I will say before we give it an overall letter grade rating for the block, I will say you mentioned there's only 4 left. Now more than ever, that does not seem like enough episodes, not just for the series, but for now how much I'm enjoying this world that has been built in this series. There's no possible way 4 episodes is going to feel satisfying for all that's been established in this world building now.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, hey, like I said before earlier, Vision of Escaflowne got a better ending than this.
Oh, wow.
And that was supposed to have 39 episodes and only had 26, and then they had a movie. But even still, like, great soundtrack by Yoko Kanno. But you see, those guys at least had unfortunately had to trim down to 26, so it might be a rush, but it still ended. This, I have no clue as to how this is going to occur.
Oh well.
I'm not going to sit here and speculate. I'm just going to continue like we're going into the next set of episodes and then find out, oh, that's it. It's over.
So sad. So sad. Yep. Well, letter grade for this block. At this time, I cannot remember our previous letter grades, except for I remember the first block. And did we do the second block? I think we didn't. So I think...
that's right.
So we can now correct everything. So at least for myself, I remember the first block. I think I gave it... Oh, shoot. Now I have to rewrite history.
That's fine. I'm not going to...
I think I gave it a B-, I think, first block. And then retroactively now, I'm going to say second block B+. And I'm going to say for the third block, A-.
I don't want to cheat and give the same answers, but I do think that, yeah, the second half was more of an improvement from the first. This one, I might also have to do the same thing. So I don't know what I said in the first part, but yeah, for retroactively, yeah, the second part gets a B+, and then this one gets an A-. Which when I say that, it sounds like it was bad.
Oh, one last thing that you had been teasing to me.
Fucking crap. I almost forgot. You sly dog, you caught me monologuing. Holy crap, let's do this.
Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
I'd like you to go first. So I apologize, profusely, off the record, even though it's on tape right now, Eric, for pestering you, but I just really wanted you to do it because I knew you would have loved to have done that. So, and now you can go out and you could commission somebody to design your program and what they look like. And I don't know, they don't have to necessarily be your likeness. They could be your likeness. Heck, you could ask them, the artist, to make a caricature of yourself, or you just use your WhatsApp image as like your profile, like initial profile for the program.
I didn't even think about what the physical manifestation of my program could even be like, because I was just thinking of the name and like meaning of, but
I know I'm suddenly like adding more to this. I'm adding more to the,
because I was like thinking just now, why do you have a vision of your own avatar in your head?
No, not yet, but I could.
Okay.
I might.
Okay. Oh, is it like a created, like it's not a real word?
We'll find out. Well, you'll find out in a second.
So, mine is tensor.
Ooh, I like that. Like tensor bandage. That's cool.
What's a tensor bandage?
I think it's that new I think I could be wrong on this. It's that like new athletics tape that you see in like, I'll use the NFL for instance, because you can see the arms of running backs or of the players, where they'll put like.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about as it pertains to sports.
I could be wrong on tensor bandages, but that's still it's a type of I know what like tensor is, but
you're right. Those are called tensor bandages.
Sick. Pull that on my rear.
I did not know that, but that has nothing to do with why I chose the name.
Oh, that's fair.
But you are correct. It's tensor and it's spelled the same.
Hey, let's go.
I guess tensor is a prominent brand, so it's kind of like saying Kleenex or Xerox.
I see. Okay.
Where it's the thing, but it's also a particular brand, or Band-Aid even is like.
Yeah, that's true.
So tensor. Do you have any idea what it means outside of sports bandages?
Well, it sounds like tensile to me, like tensile strength, which is a type of strength in itself. It sounds condensed. It sounds compact. It sounds strong. Like it sounds like, oh, you're not like irritant, or you're about to like, be, short tempered or anything like that. But it sounds like there's a lot of weight behind this character. It feels like, oh, they have sort of like not like a military program or anything. Well, it could be. Where did you come up with this word?
So, for you and the listeners, how much do you recall, or are you familiar with, like, geometry class and trigonometry in school or college?
The sub basic levels of geometry.
Sub basic, so below
Sine,
basic.
cosine, forget the third one.
Okay, well, do you remember what a vector is in physics?
Oh, do I eat him? I eat every day. I love me some cornflakes.
Okay, so if one recalls what a vector is, or I think it's called a ray in geometry, but it's like the same thing.
Yeah.
A vector is a thing in mathematical space that has one dimension. So there's multiple ways to visualize it. A simple way would be, if you're familiar with the XY coordinate system,
Oh yes.
if you just only had an X value for a series of information, then that would create a vector, because everything would only exist on one axis, let's say X.
Yep.
So that's a vector. And think of a thermometer, like a physical thermometer, that's a vector, because you have all the degrees, but it can only ever be on that vector.
Yep. It's only going up. Well, I say up, but it's only going like in one direction.
Yeah, there's no side vectors or something like that. Exactly. So that's a vector. So I think people can visualize an X, Y. So that's two dimensions. We know that can make a grid, right? Obviously, you have grid coordinates.
Oh, I know where this is going.
So now you can have an X, Y, and also grid. Another thing it's called in mathematics is, it's also called a matrix. A matrix is when you have a bunch of numbers that look like Sudoku, and you just have numbers in a grid pattern.
Yep.
So that's a matrix and or a grid. You have two dimensions. So you mentioned the z-axis. And of course, what is that in geometry or physics? That's the third dimension, obviously. And just like a grid, XY can be called a matrix, and a single dimension could be called a vector. When you start adding the z, when you start adding a third dimension, it's called a tensor.
Oh my
A
goodness.
tensor is a three-dimensional matrix or a three-dimensional grid. So you can imagine the line, you can imagine the square grid, and then you can imagine a Rubik's Cube would almost be like a three-dimensional tensor. So there you go.
Eric, you have my utter appreciation. You put a lot more thought into this than I ever did.
What?
Yeah.
All I did was describe mathematical terms. How does
You did,
even...
but
Okay,
you
so
at
then
least-
answer me this. If you think this is so profound, how does that apply to me?
because you at least thought of the illusions. You at least thought of, okay, you're gonna take something that's so basic. When I say basic, it's fundamental in terms of computing, and or okay, you can apply math to anything, obviously, and math is very you need math in order for computers to exist, and programs and scripts and all that stuff, right? But you at least have your program named after something that is so basic and so fundamental, but you need it, and you need it to understand, and it affects and is affecting the world that we're in. So it's you have a mythology there similar to, as I was mentioning, how the show uses Greek mythology subtly in the background for names or words or whatever.
Yes, and the reason why I thought it's self-applied was because you already know that I'm kind of obsessed with the shape and the theory of fractals.
Yes.
And so I was trying to think, what is the equivalent in the grid? When I say the grid, I mean the Tron grid.
Yes.
And in terms of programming, what would be a good thing that's like a fractal, something that could start simple and gets more complicated in more iterations. And when I think of a fractal, I think of a matrix also, like the matrix in the movie The Matrix, or a matrix when you see the matrix that shows like the shape of something,
Yes.
whether it's tangible or metaphorical. Um, but tensor, I think, makes more sense than calling my name fractal or matrix. And they don't really have surnames programs in the Tron universe.
No, they don't. Don't worry, I'm not going that far.
If they did, my name would be like Tensor Rain or something like that.
Oh, that sounds so cool. That's
And
awesome.
the reason why is because Matrix Rain, that's a term bandied about. And what that means, Matrix Rain, is that describes seeing like a random falling of characters, like what you see on the flat screen in the Matrix movie. That's Matrix Rain. And I've talked so much about how when I think about something in my mind, it is like seeing the Matrix Rain. Like it's a bunch of stuff that makes no sense to someone else looking at it, but to me, it makes perfect sense. Like it paints a picture. And the reason I thought the name Tensor is much better than Matrix or Matrix Rain is because it's one thing to see the flat screen version of the Matrix, but I always think about that scene at the end of the first movie where suddenly Neo has the sight and he sees the world in like a three-dimensional Matrix Rain. That's exactly what a tensor is. It's three-dimensional Matrix Rain. It is seeing the world. It's not just seeing the Matrix. See, metaphorically, seeing the Matrix on the screen is like saying you're reading a description of a play, like a screenplay. Oh, it was a cold morning. The character rolls up the collar on his coat as he trudges down the alley. That's reading the Matrix Rain. But seeing the tensor or experiencing the tensor is like more like what Neo experiences at the end of the movie, where he's not just reading the script, he's like gone into it like VR, because now he's seeing the Matrix Rain in three dimensions. And not only is that why I like the name tensor or the term, but also a tensor core, I think it's called, is one of the essential components of AI and deep think learning. So that's one of the components of what makes AI possible in our present world. That's what simulates like cognitive thinking is the tensor core. So yeah. There you go.
Well, it makes my program's name look utterly stupid.
You challenged me so hard because you made it sound like you have this like really thought out. So I was like, I need to come prepared. And
that's good. No, I'm glad I did
that. None of what I said came with the assistance of ChatGPT.
Thank you very much. I will take your word as Scout's honor.
So I did not use ChatGPT in any way to inform me.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to test you, like give you a challenge. That's all it was. It was no like it had nothing. You don't have I don't know about that, but I just didn't want you to rely on ChatGPT this once because it's like have some creativity. Like I
rely on it all the time, which is don't
maybe
put
I
that
am.
on
I'm
the
sorry.
Listener head because
that's true. You're not fair enough, but it's like, hey, listen, I just wanted to give you a little challenge. That's a little brain teaser or whatnot, brainstorming, and hey, you came and got beyond an A+. I don't know what's beyond an A+, but whatever is in the ninth dimension, you got that level of grade because I'm very thank you so much for that. That you put so much thought into that, and I'm glad I pushed you to actually make you come up with these ideas.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy because I just made it in my own image, and because my own image is to deep think, then
this is true.
Yeah.
All right. So, want to hear mine?
Sure. I mean, yeah.
So do you want to hear the name first, or do you want to hear how I got this name?
I don't know. That's like its own.
It is
philosophical quandary.
Aye, because it's the chicken or the egg.
Describe it first, but also understand, listener. For you, you're just downloading the next episode of this podcast.
Oh, I mean, they're
for
probably
me,
not
this
hear
has
this.
been teased for at least 3 weeks or something.
It has, yeah. No, so it's like I don't. This might just be a big letdown for him. So me and Caleb, what was it? I have my ticket over there. We see a movie together. It's been a while since we actually seen a movie in person together. a few Sundays ago, I believe, or was it a Friday night? I can't remember now. We see a movie together, and we're out in his car in the parking lot afterwards, and I just happened to like look into his like a side mirror, and then I see something that makes me go, I figured out exactly what my name's going to be. I knew exactly what it's going to be. That is Zammy.
How's it spelled?
Xami.
Okay. And what is Zammy?
Look at it backwards or spell it backwards.
Oh my gosh. So you saw the reflection?
I literally saw the inverted image of IMAX and said, that's my name. It can go
now
no
is there
other way.
further meaning other than recognizing and going, oh, that's catchy?
No, that's literally it. Zammy. Is because sometimes I like to look at people's names backwards. Like my sibling's name is a palindrome. My name spells Cassie. And if I go with Ike, it's Eki instead. So I just like,
Yeah, I used to tell my
sometimes.
cousin back in the day to call me Kyer. And one time she got me an ID bracelet that had the name Kyer, and people would read it and go, what the hell is that supposed to mean? No, but I'll tell you what. I'll give you meaning.
Oh, okay. Let's hear it.
So if IMAX, I was just thinking, what does that stand for? I was like,
and also, I did not want my name to start with I. I already have that anyways. So
sure.
So I went with X.
So if IMAX is taking like regular big pictures or movies and making them even bigger, then Zammy to me is taking something huge and distilling it into something smaller or more manageable.
Oh, there you go. Look at that. We just made you made a new word up and have the definition right there.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, well, there you go. Zammy and Tenzer is going to be the name of our next podcast that we produce.
Or we'll have to introduce ourselves but we have to have like voice modulators to make ourselves sound like Tron in this series.
Well, that can be done. I could do it myself, or we could have an editor do it. Just kidding. All right, Master Control, I hear you. We are going to sign off now and closing out the show today. This is Eric.
And I was Isaac.
And until next time,
don't breathe in those foul vapors, or else.
End of line.
Prognosis negative.